Uh, I'm calling this more on classes and objects, just some follow-up things. And I really just have two main follow-up things today. I wanted to just highlight that the toString method always has this header, public string toString. That's just what it looks like. So if you're, and you haven't done that correctly, if when you print something out, instead of getting what you wanted, you get something like this entry here, student at 5E23, blah, blah, blah. In fact, let me show you. I'll go back to the warm-up here and watch. What if I changed this toString to be all caps? Okay, so it's no longer the toString that Java is going to look for. And now when I run this, it's still going to run. But every time it tries to print a snack, it says snack at, and then it gives you this like weird, this hex code. So if you've made a class and you run the tests, and instead of getting like the pretty output that you've asked it to do, you get this at symbol and the class name, that means you did something wrong with your toString. It's not like we're not allowed to have a method that's all caps toString. It's just not the one that Java is going to look for. Java, when you print any custom class, Java looks for a toString method, and it tries to use that for the printing. And so it just gives us a chance to make it prettier. Of course, we'd rather see it say nachos than just snack at some weird, number entry. But on your tests, when you're doing work with a class, if you get this weird entry where it has the class name and an at symbol, that just means you either didn't put a toString in or you set it up wrong. But your toString method will always have this header, public string toString. Okay, so I'd like you to write a toString for this class on a piece of paper or in a Google Doc or anywhere right now, everybody. Just, you don't have to write the whole class down, just write a toString for a hamster class. And it looks like the hamster class, we have a name for the hamster and we have a weight in grams. So you're going to write a simple toString right now. I want to see you writing, on a piece of paper or typing. And then I'll show you the one I wrote. So you'll have public string toString, empty parentheses, open and close curly brackets, and a return line inside. Thumbs up. I think I'll show you my answer. So here's the one I wrote. You didn't have to do it just like me, but mine returns the name and then puts the weight in grams in between parentheses. It's okay if you didn't do it just like mine, but the idea was I wanted you to practice saying return and then putting some information together. Any questions about that? All right.
Wait, I do have a question about that.
Okay.
Why is weight in grams in parentheses, but name isn't? You'd think it all does not be in parentheses, right?
Oh, I just wanted it like on my like when I did the snack toString, if you look on the screen share, I put the calories in parentheses. That's all. It was just, it didn't have to be in parentheses. I was just putting parentheses around it. And in fact, I see that it'd be better if there was a space in front of this parentheses so that the grams wasn't just jammed into the name, you know, but yeah, it didn't have to be in parentheses. I just wanted it in parentheses. Like the hamster named Killer weighs 42 grams. Hey, I'll admit it. When I was 10, I had a pet rat named Linus. He'd cruise around my desk while I did schoolwork. But then he got a tumor and died. That's a sad story. Anyway, it's going to be okay. I got over it, I guess, more or less. All right, so that's it with toStrings. Now, I'm going to show you some interesting things. Alonzo, yes, sometimes he did leave things on my desk that messed up my schoolwork. Mostly, though, he was good. So part 2 of today's notes, using accessor and mutator methods. So as we learned last time, accessor methods let us see the private variable information, and mutator methods let us change that private variable information. There was some disagreement among us about whether toString is an accessor method. And I think I would say it's not, because it's not technically just giving you just the variable, it's putting it together in kind of a neat package. So to go back to our snack, I would say we had 2 accessor methods, which was get name and get calories, and we had 2 mutator methods, set name and set calories. And then the toString is just another method. It doesn't have to be one of those 2. You can have, you know, methods that do anything. So okay, so today I'm going to show you how we can use the accessor methods to compare 2 objects. So I'm going to post this link. I gotta get it. Let's see. I guess I'll just open it and then I'll post the link for you on the chat. So everybody, here it comes. Hopefully you can click on that link in the chat, and so I just posted a link on the chat. Everybody open it up. I'm gonna fork this, and then I'm gonna click on main, because thank you for teaching me how to use this program. All right, so you've opened up, hopefully you open up this class, and I would encourage you to follow along with what I'm gonna do, but you'll see in just a sec. And if it's too much to try to do it while I'm doing it, then just watch me, and you know, the video, you can look at it later. I made a simplified student class that instead of having first name and last name, and you know, it just has name and GPA, and we have set GPA, set name, and get GPA, get name, and we have a toString. So I think this should run. I have 2 students. They're actually duplicates of each other. Don't do anything yet, everybody. I wanted to show you how we could write code that would check if these 2 student objects were duplicates. So watch what I'm going to do up here. I'm up in the main method. I'm going to show you how up here we can check if these 2 students are the same. So you do an if statement, and you can say, the students are named S and T. So we can say if S dot get name dot equals T dot get name, right? That would be, the names have to be the same, and then also the GPA. So I'm going to do an and symbol, and I'm going to say S dot get GPA, and this one is just equal T dot get GPA. So if all of that is true, then I'd say we have a duplicate, right? Because these two students have the same name and the same GPA. So then we would system.out.println and we should get duplicate. We should get that printed out. All right, so this is like an example of using accessor methods in another class. Notice we're up here in main. This is a class called main, just here for us to run code in. But this is how you'd have to do comparing values from an object, like to compare if two objects were the same. This is how you would do it up here in main. And let me just make sure it's working I'll change one of these objects to not have the same GPA. And notice it doesn't print out duplicate. I guess I can put an else here. If I get my fingers in the right place on the keyboard. And I'll say not a duplicate. So, all right, so since I changed the GPA, it's not a duplicate. So if, I mean, in general, I'd say it'd be great if you could try to do this along with me so you could be seeing it. But if it's too much, then just watch and that'll be okay. But I wanted you to have the file in case you wanted to play with it. Okay, so then that's one way you can check duplicates. That's if you're in another class. I want to show you, we can write a method down here in the student class that'll compare two student objects. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say public Boolean is duplicate. And inside the parentheses, we're going to be receiving a student named other. So public Boolean is duplicate. And then what this method is going to receive is another student object. And then in here, we can say if name dot equals other dot name. And this is accessing the variables by name. We're allowed to do that here because we are inside a student object. The student has the right to access the variables by name. And here we say GPA equal other dot GPA. So if that's all true, we're going to return true. And then otherwise, we're going to return false. So if I run this, I mean, it'll just check that it compiles. We're not, it's not checking anything. We didn't call this method from anywhere yet. I'll scroll back, but up here, to test this, we'd have to say s dot is duplicate t. And actually, we have to print that because that's just a true or false. System.out.println dupe plus true or false. So right now, if we run this, it's going to say dupe and then say false. So this s dot is duplicate, sending over the other student as a parameter in the method. It comes down here, runs this method is duplicate, and then that the student that we were checking if it was a duplicate, it becomes this one called other. This is really what they call an alias. It's just another name for that one called T up above. We're calling it other here. And then we can just refer, when this name right here, the word name is referring to this right here. And we're using dot equals still with the names because it's strings. And down over on GPA, we're just using double equal sign because remember, you don't use dot equals. You only use dot equals for comparing strings and other classes. We'll get more to that later. Any questions?
Can other be anything you want? Like you can replace the word with like anything? Or it has to
yeah.
be other.
Yeah,
Okay.
it could be if we just did X, you just have to make it the same in all three places. Yeah, it's just a name for a variable, any legal variable name. Good question. Other questions? I'm not finished, but I'm just stopping in case I've just freaked anybody out. I want to show you, yeah, okay, so then the print call up here, I'm saying system.out.println, and then I just put this dupe here so we'd know what was happening on this line, and then I'm just doing s.isDuplicate with t in there. And we could do t.isDuplicate s, we'd get the same answer. And I'll change it back so they are duplicates so we can make sure that we, yeah, it's working. So I want to show you another way this can be done in the same place. So I'm just commenting out that code. Alonso, you have a statement, and it's a good point. I don't know. There's times when each of these ways would be better, but using the accessor methods seems maybe a little easier up top, but either way is okay. So watch this. You can do the if in another way, and this might be a little scary. Watch me just say get name dot equals ext get name. So I'm calling get name without anybody attached to it. That means in the current object. That's just like saying the word name. And when I just said the word name, it was accessing the variable directly. If I just say get name like this, it's calling get name on the current object. You have to have the, I'm going to put this back to other, by the way, because I think it's just better than X in the big picture. But so we're allowed to mix and match these different ways of accessing the variables. So I can say get GPA equal other dot get GPA. Return true, and then you notice I didn't say else return false. It's okay to do that, but in a method, you don't have to say else in this case, like in the commented out area here, because once it returns true, it stops running any code in the method. It's not going to do both those things. So you don't have to, it will only get to that false line if it didn't do the true line. And what's interesting is you can mix and match these different ways of getting to the variables. I could, instead of saying get name here, I could literally just say name, which is accessing the variable name. And then I could, I can use the accessor method over here on the other, or I could leave it get name there, and I could use the word name here. Any of those work. You can combine these different ways. It's not a problem. The thing you cannot do is up here in the main class, you can't, watch if I try to just use name right here, s.name dot equals. This won't work because that's trying to access the variable from outside of the class. And you're not allowed to, see the error says name has private access in student. And that's because we said private string name. And you're supposed to, in all of our custom classes, you're supposed to make your variables up here be private. Not all the variables. You can have variables down below that do all kinds of things. They don't have to be private if they're inside of a method. It's the class attribute, the high level variables that have to be private. So, so let's see. We'll put that back so it works. So the reason we're allowed to just say other .name here and other .gpa is we're inside of the student class. And so when you're inside the class itself, you're allowed to access the variables with like a dot and the name of the variable, or just the name of the variable. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to ask you to do this on one of today's assignments. And the good news is I did it all in a video. So that's, you know, if you get it done today, you know, I can help you. But if you're stuck later, I did the whole bouquet class in a video, including this part. But I just wanted you to practice it. All right, so then there's nothing to turn in with the student file. It was just for me to demonstrate.